Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel. So I'm filming a couple today, so if you see me dressed the same, there is a reason for that. But I'm going to be talking about two different helmets. So the second one is this one here, which is the RWA Creations TIE-Pilot helmet. So this is a black ABS kit. It's not the acrylic capped. Personally, I prefer the slightly more satin finish of these. I think it looks a little bit more like those seen in the movie, as I say, with more of a satin finish. But as you can see, it's really coming along now, so it's all constructed, apart from the little box on the back, which I haven't done yet, but it's all constructed. I've then done some of the gunmetal painting. So this is one of the hero versions, including there basically I did a template that my very kind wife printed out on her Cricut machine. If you've not heard of Cricut, I'll put a little picture of one here. But as I say, really coming together nicely. I've done the decals, and I'll do a few more details of this from another camera shot in a moment. So I will pass you over to me, but from the other side of the camera. There we go, thanks for making it through the intro, and now as you can see, we're having a closer look at the helmet. So there's a few bits that I mentioned in one of my previous videos, and that's about the actual construction of the helmet. So there's a couple of really key things that I personally like from the original helmets, the original trilogy helmets. And one of those is the way that this part here is cut out on the main dome. So as you'll see there, that's really at an angle. You're not trying to fill this gap. The originals didn't appear to fill this gap. Now that's very apparent as well when you look at the ATAT driver. They've got this big gap here, so that's why they stuck in those accessories. I think those accessories were from a SodaStream machine, but that's where the big gap is. So my personal preference is building this, that I wanted to mimic the originals as much as possible. So I followed that really sort of out and back in angle with a massive gaping hole in there. You can fit 2 fingers in there. Oi, oi. And there's a big gap on both sides. So for me, that's a nice key feature of an original trilogy TIE-Pilot. Another huge thing for me that I noticed, one of the first things I noticed when I started looking at original TIE-Pilots, was this big cutout here. So the faceplate has a big cutout. You'll see the photo now that I'm showing on screen, but there's a big cutout in the faceplate, and then behind here is another piece of black ABS. Now it looks like on some of the originals maybe that ABS was holding the lenses in place, the bubble lenses, which on the originals were one piece from left to right, and also it gives you a nice position to mount your little greeblies here. So as I say, for me that cutout just gives it real character. It gives it depth in here as well, so you've got sort of a first layer, and then behind that you've got a second layer. So that for me is a really nice touch. So again, that's just something I wanted to do to mimic the originals as much as possible. Now, as I've said, this is the RWA Creations kit. It comes with everything you need to build it, although I did make a couple of alterations. So by looking on good old Jay TIE-Pilot, looking on his Facebook group, he mentioned that there are some slightly more accurate greeblies for the front of the helmet there. So these are the ones that were supplied, which are fine. I'm sure that's absolutely fine for most people, no problem. They still look very similar, little black plastic, just screw them through. But what I've done is I've replaced them, and those are these little Halfords, which is a UK car accessory shop. Little Halfords trim panel clips apparently. So those are then in there. I just sprayed those with a satin black, so they match in quite nicely with the helmet. And again, based on how the original Hero helmet is built, let me just bring this a little bit closer to the camera so that you can really see it. You'll see that the original helmet, the greeblies were under the trident here. They actually sit under the trident, they don't sit on top of it. So again, I've done that to match the original as much as possible. And even the position of it, so on the original helmet, this left one is pointing straight up pretty much, and the one on the right is at a slight angle. So again, all of that is designed to mimic that original Hero helmet as much as possible. Now this part here was a template or a stencil, so I took some original photos of the Hero helmet, basically then cropped the photo image, and then my lovely wife has a Cricut or Cricut, I think it's a Cricut, printing machine. So she then just printed me out a sticker, essentially a decal, template, whatever you want to call it, and I then hand painted over all of that, and then of course peeled it off, and it's left me with the lovely detailing on the top of the helmet there. It's a bit smaller than I would like, So if I redid it, I would print it slightly bigger. But as I say, that's the detailing on here. And this paint, by the way, I love the finish of it. It's really lovely, and as it looks proper well, it is hand painted, but it looks very close, in my opinion, to the originals. And that's obviously on the vocoder running underneath. It's on the frown, and it's then on the top here as well. So that's really, really nice. That is this paint here, which is Rover Gunmetal, again from the UK company Halfords, which, as I say, are a car spares specialist. The decal, you may see it in the light there, is annoying me because it does keep bubbling slightly. That's another area. So again, the RWA kit does come with some decals which are silver, but they're not backed. Looking at the original helmets, it looks like, as per this one I've got on the helmet, the whole decal is printed. So it's basically a black round decal with silver print over the top, whereas this one here is just the silver, basically silver decal. So I replaced these came from CFO, so very kindly I've got these from CFO, which are just maybe a slight tweak, a slight improvement over the supplied ones. And another change that I made, I'll show this in some separate photos. The Trident here, I think it's called the Trident, was a bit thicker. So it comes bigger from RWA, so it's probably about maybe 4mm thicker. But looking at the originals, it looked a bit narrower, a bit thinner. So what I did was basically cut it shorter, just to make it a bit narrower, again, a bit closer to the originals. So just another little tweak that I made to try and make it closer to those original helmets. Otherwise, it is what you see. As I say, I've not done the little pillbox on the back, or whatever you call it. The neck trim is actually now falling off, I've just noticed. It's not a perfect job. This is the first TIE Pilot helmet that I've built personally. As most people probably know, I've built a lot of Stormtrooper helmets, but this is the first TIE Pilot that I've built. So learning process, but really, really enjoying that process. And as I say, that's coming together pretty nicely. As I say, that's the details I wanted to cover today. The paintwork, slight change to the greeblies, the big cutout in the faceplate, which is under there. As I say, these big gaps here, which are really, really, that's a lovely touch, I think, from the original helmets. And later on, I'll try and add in the bubble lenses and get this one finished. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll hand you over to me from the other side of the camera. And there we have it. I really hope you've enjoyed the video talking about this RWA Creations TIE Pilot helmet. I'll be doing more details later once I've actually finished it. So as I say, it's a bit of slow progress, but we are getting there. So if you've enjoyed the video, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.